It was a quiet summer day in 2019, with nothing unusual to mark the hours. But behind the scenes, something unimaginable was brewing. A cyber attack so sophisticated, it would soon become the largest hack the world had ever seen. The attack began when Stephen Adair, the president of Velocity, a prominent cybersecurity firm, was asked to investigate what appeared to be a small, isolated breach at an American think tank. At first, it seemed like just another day in the life of cybersecurity. But Adair quickly realized there was something off about this intrusion. It wasn't just one hacker. It was two groups, one known, and the other, much more elusive. This was just the beginning. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on more gripping true crime stories from the digital world. The first group was easily identified, but it was the second group, known only as Dark Halo, that raised alarms. This group was different. They weren't just after any information. They were digging into the most sensitive parts of the think tank systems. Adair watched in real time as these hackers infiltrated key personnel's emails, silently siphoning away precious data. Dark Halo's skill was unnerving. The hackers didn't just take information. They were patient, methodical, and seemingly invisible. They returned to the network repeatedly, copying emails and sending them to an external server without detection. They were precise. But the real shock came when Velocity's team realized that what they were dealing with was far more dangerous than just a group of cyber thieves. Dark Halo had planted something far more sinister, a backdoor. It had been there for years. A hidden backdoor, buried deep within the network, gave the hackers a secret entry point. Adair was left dumbfounded. They had removed the intruders, shut down the obvious door, but this second, hidden entry was still active. The hackers had anticipated this. They knew that if one door was closed, they could quickly find another. This was the game of digital cat and mouse. While Velocity scrambled to eject them, the hackers quietly slipped back in, undetected, exploiting this secret access. They had been in the system for years, planning their next move. By late June 2020, Velocity and the U.S. Department of Justice were locked in a battle against a seemingly invisible foe. Both had discovered that the source of the breach might be a well-known software provider, SolarWinds, a company providing infrastructure software to thousands of organizations, including federal agencies and tech giants like Microsoft. It didn't make sense. Despite multiple investigations, no one could find any obvious vulnerabilities in SolarWinds software. But something wasn't right. The attackers had managed to infiltrate SolarWinds, and now it was clear. This was a much larger operation than anyone had anticipated. Mikko Hipponen, a world-renowned cybersecurity expert, took one look at the growing attack and immediately saw its scale. This wasn't just about stealing emails or information. It was an attack on trust itself. Hackers had infiltrated systems that governed the world's digital infrastructure. They had gained access to the U.S. Treasury, the Department of Commerce, and even top defense contractors. The hackers weren't just after small bits of data. They had a bigger agenda: intelligence gathering, espionage on a scale never seen before. And the worst part? They were undetected, moving stealthily through the most secure systems in the world. By November 2020, the investigation had taken a dark turn. Mandiant, a renowned cybersecurity and forensics firm, was called in after the discovery of a compromised VPN at one of the victims. The situation was escalating fast. Mandiant's experts uncovered something that made their blood run cold. The attackers had executed a golden SAML attack, bypassing security protocols and taking control of employee accounts. The attackers weren't just stealing data anymore. They were manipulating the system from within, creating new accounts with unlimited access. The breach was massive. What made this breach so disturbing was its invisibility. The hackers weren't using traditional methods. Instead, they were exploiting tools that were already in the system. They were using what was available to them, slipping under the radar. Their aim? To stay undetected for as long as possible. And they were succeeding. Adair and his team were frantically tracing their movements, trying to pinpoint the exact location of the breach. But every time they thought they were close, the hackers adapted. They were playing a game of digital hide-and-seek, and the hackers were winning. Just when it seemed like they might be close to finding the perpetrators, a breakthrough came. The hackers had embedded themselves so deeply within the system that they had gained access to the tools and security methods that Mandiant used to protect its own clients. They were using these tools to hide their movements, erasing any trace of their presence. Mandiant was dealing with more than just a breach. They were dealing with an adversary that knew their every move. It was a revelation that would change the investigation forever. Months passed. Mandiant and the Department of Justice were no closer to catching the attackers. But then, in a shocking turn of events, a hidden file was discovered. This file, which had been overlooked, contained a critical clue, a rogue piece of code that had been signed by SolarWinds. The hackers had used this file to bypass security and inject their malware into the system. The code was labeled Sunburst, and it was the key to unlocking the entire operation. As the investigation deepened, the true scope of the attack became clearer. SolarWinds had unknowingly been the vehicle for the hackers' attacks. The breach had compromised thousands of systems worldwide, including top government agencies and major tech companies. Mandiant had uncovered something so sophisticated that it felt like something out of a spy novel. The hackers weren't just breaking into networks. They were manipulating the very tools that kept those networks secure. The attackers were no ordinary hackers. They were spies, cyber spies, with the skills to infiltrate and remain undetected for years. They knew how to play the game, and they played it well. Their methods were so sophisticated that even seasoned experts like Adair and Mandiant struggled to keep up. As the investigation continued, it became clear that the hackers were working on a larger scale than anyone had imagined. This was espionage, on a global scale. As the months dragged on, the full impact of the breach began to emerge. The hackers had stolen sensitive data, access to top-secret government information, and even the source code for major software programs. The US government, tech companies, and cybersecurity firms were left scrambling to protect their systems and secure their networks. The attackers had executed one of the most sophisticated hacks the world had ever seen, and yet they remained hidden in the shadows. If you're stunned by the scale and complexity of this cyber attack, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more in-depth true crime stories from the digital world. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated on the latest investigations.